Africa, a continent brimming with natural resources, diverse cultures, and immense human potential, yet it grapples with a painful paradox: the marginalization of its own people within their own lands. This essay delves into the complex web of historical, economic, social, and political factors that contribute to this injustice. We will explore how this marginalization manifests and its profound impact on vulnerable groups. Finally, we will examine ongoing efforts to counter this deeply rooted issue. The marginalization of Africans is not a new phenomenon, it is a pervasive issue, woven into the very fabric of many African societies. Understanding its root causes is crucial for charting a path towards a future where all Africans can thrive and prosper in their own countries. The seeds of marginalization were sown during the dark era of colonialism. European powers carved up the continent, exploiting its resources and subjugating its people. This legacy of exploitation continues to cast a long shadow over Africa today. The transatlantic slave trade, a horrific chapter in human history, decimated populations and left lasting scars on the African psyche. Post-colonial Africa inherited artificial borders and systems of governance that often exacerbated existing ethnic and social divisions. These divisions have been exploited by those in power, leading to conflict, instability, and further marginalization. The wounds of the past continue to fester, hindering progress and perpetuating cycles of inequality. Africa's vast natural wealth has often been a curse rather than a blessing. Multinational corporations, often with the complicity of corrupt governments, extract resources with little regard for the environment or the well-being of local communities. This economic exploitation leaves many Africans impoverished and deprived of their rightful share of their continent's riches. Unfair trade agreements and crippling debt burdens further exacerbate the situation. African countries are often forced to export raw materials at low prices, only to import finished goods at exorbitant rates. This unequal exchange perpetuates a cycle of dependency and hinders the development of local industries. The political landscape in many African countries is often characterized by corruption, lack of transparency, and a disregard for the rule of law. Governments prioritize the interests of foreign investors and a privileged elite over the needs of their own citizens. This political manipulation perpetuates a system where the voices of ordinary Africans are silenced and their concerns are ignored. Xenophobia and ethnic tensions are frequently exploited by political opportunists seeking to consolidate power. This manipulation creates divisions within society, diverting attention from the real issues of economic inequality and social injustice. The result is a climate of fear and distrust, where marginalized groups are easy scapegoats. Section 5. Social exclusion, invisible walls, tangible pain. Social exclusion manifests in various forms, from discrimination based on ethnicity, religion, or gender to limited access to education, healthcare, and other essential services. This exclusion creates a vicious cycle, where marginalized groups are trapped in poverty and denied opportunities to improve their lives. Traditional beliefs and practices can also contribute to social exclusion, particularly for women and girls. The lack of social mobility further entrenches existing inequalities. Those born into marginalized communities often face insurmountable barriers to breaking free from the cycle of poverty and exclusion. This creates a sense of hopelessness and despair, fueling social unrest and instability. Section 6. Vulnerable and voiceless. Women, youth, and the disabled. Marginalization disproportionately affects the most vulnerable segments of African society: women, youth, and people with disabilities. Women often face systemic barriers to education, employment, and political participation. They are also disproportionately affected by poverty, violence, and lack of access to healthcare. Youth unemployment is a major challenge across the continent, leaving young people disillusioned and with limited prospects for the future. People with disabilities often face stigma and discrimination, denying them access to education, employment, and social inclusion. Their voices are often unheard and their needs overlooked. Section 7. A glimmer of hope, the microgreen project. Despite these challenges, there are glimmers of hope emerging across the continent. Initiatives like the Microgreen project launched in 2024 by the African Development Bank and Invest in Africa, offer a beacon of light. This $1 million project aims to empower marginalized groups in Ghana and Senegal through green job creation and entrepreneurship. Microgreen specifically targets 1,000 youth, 60% women, 10% disabled, with capacity building, gender-focused strategies and value chain development. By equipping marginalized groups with the skills and resources they need to succeed, Microgreen empowers them to become agents of change in their own communities. Section 8, The Long Road Ahead, a call for collective action. While initiatives like Microgreen offer hope, addressing the deep-rooted issue of marginalization in Africa requires a multifaceted and long-term approach. It demands a collective effort from governments, civil society organizations, the private sector, and individuals to dismantle the systemic barriers that perpetuate inequality. Education is paramount. By providing quality education to all, we can empower future generations to break free from the cycle of poverty and exclusion. We must also promote good governance, transparency, and accountability, ensuring that governments are truly representative of the people they serve. Section 9. Conclusion: Reclaiming Africa's Narrative. The marginalization of Africans in their own lands is a complex and multifaceted issue with far-reaching consequences. It is a stain on the conscience of humanity, demanding our urgent attention and action. By acknowledging the historical injustices, dismantling systemic barriers, and empowering marginalized communities, we can create a future where all Africans can thrive and prosper in their own countries. Let us reclaim the narrative of Africa, not as a continent defined by poverty, conflict, and despair, but as a land of opportunity, resilience, and boundless potential.